Well, the players have landed back from Las Vegas. Contract discussions are well underway. The playoffs are underway too to find out who the final team will be joining Mansfield in League One. And we've got one job left to do. Yes, it's time for the final episode, and I mean the final episode of the series, episode 40 of Series 7 of the Mansfield Matters Podcast. It's all about future planning, aka the retained list review. Tonight we'll go through that retained list, which contains very few shocks, if any shocks at all. We'll look at the strength of the squad going into League One and ask the question, is it good enough on paper to survive? That and a whole lot more coming up in the next 45 minutes or so here on the final Mansfield Matters podcast of the series. So do, as always, get involved in the comments and have your say on your team. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Hello and welcome to the Mansfield Matters podcast. It's the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Well, you thought we were done on Sunday when we were out in the garden in the glorious sunshine, reflecting on all things 2023-2024, a season which accumulated in Stags getting promoted to League One. But there's one thing that they need going into that new season, and that, of course, is a squad. A squad capable of keeping them in League One, a squad capable of going forward, a squad which has been kept together, has not been kept together. We're going to talk all about that over the next 45 minutes or so. As always, you're encouraged to have your say on your team. However, comments like this from Mitchell, the American, saying, "Y'all are late." No, you're late. It's 7:30-ish for a reason. That's the rule, and you should abide by it. That's right, Cam Felton, isn't it? That's been the rule since day one.
It has, but also, did someone say promotion? Hooray! Let's go! It's the end of the season, and my goodness, what a season it's been. And this is always one of my favourite ones. You get to look back over the season and a little bit more chill, and then you can also look at what we've kind of got to look forward to going forward to next season, which, to be honest, it's going to be another one of these buzzwords. It's got to be a buzzword at some point. Continuity.
Oh, where is it? Where is the ill-fated bell? I actually don't know what I've done with the ill-fated bell. I've moved stuff around because I took the office down to go downstairs. What the hell have I done with the bell? I'm going to have to find it.
Ding ding.
You talk for a minute. I'm going to have a little hunt around the office.
Has your posh little mixing desk not got a bell sound effect on?
Probably has, but I've got to load it in. I can't be arsed.
Obviously, those that have listened to since Series 1, since this might be your first show, ever since the Dave Flitcroft sort of eras, we've had buzzwords where they're toxicity used to be a favourite one. Solidify I think you might have found the bell.
Yeah, I found the bell. It was on the window.
He's found the bell. And yeah, so we've just got these buzzwords, but it would seem because we've kept Nigel for so long, and one of his things that he said is he wants to keep. Oh, who was that?
A surprise. We'll keep. Don't worry.
Ooh. Yeah, so obviously we've kept Nigel, and one of his things that he said that he wanted to keep the core of this squad together. So I think a buzzword has now got to be continuity.
I'll go with it. Also, you've got a alcoholic beverage. I've got one of these the special mugs. I've got the mugs.
Where could you get that from, Craig?
Oh, I'm not plugging that because they're not paying us to plug it. It's an excellent account on X. It's no score draws, aka cheap paninis. They're very, very good. I got all the set. I got the
Real.
poster and the mugs as well. I'm really, really pleased with it as well.
Somebody else's mugs?
Yeah, well, we've run out of Mansfield Matters ones, haven't we? Which also brings me very nicely onto why you may, if you didn't blink and miss it, have seen a little guest a couple of seconds ago. And that is because on Sunday we revealed the winner of the Mansfield Matters Podcast Predictions League, known only to us all as Fathead. Now, I just thought that was you, Cam, playing twice, but it appears not.
Do you really think I was that good at podcast predictions?
No, actually, that's a very good point.
It's terrible.
Very good point. So we had a random message on our Facebook page from a guy called Craig. Also not me, by the way, because again, his history says I'm also not that good at predictions, which is why I finish terribly every season, saying, I am Fathead. Can I have a Mansfield Matters mug as a prize? Now, I would have loved to give a Mansfield Matters mug as a prize, but I'd given the last one away during Sunday's show for the Quinn competition, and we're not getting any more made until maybe we might do something different next year. We might go hoodies or something, or scarves. So you've got the next best thing. So it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to meet the person known only as Fathead. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your winner of Podcast Predictions 2023-24. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fathead!
Hey!
Fathead, welcome to the Mansfield Matters podcast. I shall refer only to you as Fathead during the entirety of this show, because that is what you've been known to us as over 12 months, but 12 months, well, 9 months. Tell us a little bit about yourselves. Who are you? And most importantly, why are you called Fathead?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Good evening, Craig. Good evening, Cam. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. So I am Fathead. Not really sure why I used Fathead as my team for podcast predictions. My best mate Pikey, give him a quick shout out. He started calling me probably about 10 years ago, and it just stuck. And like I say, I was struggling for a team name all the way back at the start of the season. I just thought I'd put Fathead down. Never thought I'd come anywhere near the start, near the top of the league. But lo and behold, I kept in the top 10, Craig, and near the end of the season ended up coming top. So that's really my story. Followed Mansfield probably since just before '87 when we went to Wembley. So long life Mansfield supporter. All my family supported Mansfield. So been following them for quite a number of years, and a season ticket holder in the Corrie Lane with my dad and 2 children.
Well, we're more than glad to have you on. I really, really appreciate your time tonight and coming on and being part of the podcast panel. Also, you're bridging the gap, because not only are you playing the part of Mansfield Matters Podcast Predictions winner tonight, you are also, are you ready for this one, playing the part of Nathan Edge, who's currently on birthday party duty. Happy birthday, Oliver, by the way. Nick of Mansfield Town Shirts fame, who's currently at Mansfield Museum doing his second sold-out show. So really hope that goes well. Clive, who's doing some boring politics bullshit. Jim, who's making some glass. Apparently it's what he does for a living. And Sir Alan of Wilson. So, you are playing the part of 5 Mansfield Matters podcasters tonight. So you need to embody the spirit of them all. You've listened to the show all series long. So you need to be a little bit grumpy and arsey to be Clive. You need to sort of be a little bit controversial for Jim. Maybe sort of say it how it is for Nick with open and honesty. Say something daft like throw Ollie Clark off a cliff to embody the spirit of Nathan. And then just the nicest guy on earth, the Alan. All right, that's the best way.
Yeah. So mix it up a bit, Craig. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, a little bit of everything, if you don't mind. That'd be great.
Yeah, no worries. I'll try my best.
Anyway, and by the way, your final points tally: 149 points. You were the winner by 10 clear points in podcast predictions. Steve Nading came second. Nick Felton, Cam's dad, came third with 100.
I said about that one the better. Moving on.
Ben, predictions guy, and Alan Wilson finished joint 4th, and then Kiwi Stag in 5th. The podcast predictions table for Mansfield Matters, me, Cam, and Clive all finished bottom, and Nick all finished bottom. because we gambled and we got no points. Then it was Jim in second place, and then Alan leading the way with 118. We lost a lot of points on the final day gamble. In total, there was a lot of points lost on the final day, minus 954 points from the final table. Big question is though, Fathead. I can't keep calling you that. I'm gonna have to say, Craig. I feel bad.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm gonna say champ.
Okay.
Two-part question: are you going to play again next season?
Yes, absolutely.
And are you going to go with the same name, or are you going to go with the reigning champ?
I've not really thought about it, Craig, but maybe, is the reigning champ a bit arrogant? I'm not sure. If not, I'll stick with Fathead. Who knows?
And what do you think? Is it a little bit arrogant, or is it a deserved title? I mean, if it was me, I'd be going for it.
I mean, could you combine the two? Go champ Fathead?
The fat champ?
The fat
head?
champ?
The fat champ head.
The fat champ head. There we are. That's it for next season.
Jeez.
Right, I suppose after 15 minutes of this podcast, we should probably delve into what we're actually here to talk about, shouldn't we? You've now seen firsthand, Craig, the madness, what is Mansfield Matters, as always, unplanned. Right, let's delve into the real reason we're here, Cam, and that is, of course, the retain list. It came out on Monday. We're expecting it to come out. There were no real shocks, were we? First and foremost, before we get it up on screen and go through the squad as a whole, what was your reactions to it, Cam, as it came out after the players landed back from Vegas?
Expected. I think the general consensus go. Obviously, they played such crucial parts in our the last couple of years, but when it's always going to be a little bit disappointing when you know that you've won promotion and you think any other season, if we'd have not won promotion this season, how many of those under discussions would not even be in the picture or potential renewals is always an interesting way to look at it. You'd probably say for those that are there, I'd like to see all of them stay. Obviously, there is one that sticks out like a sore thumb is whether he wants to stay. But obviously, there's also rumours spreading about others that are also out of contract that might be going elsewhere. So there's a lot to digest, and there's a lot for Nigel to think about, and a lot for the players to mull over. But I just love what Nigel said about them, about every player. So they've all earned their chance to be part of this next season. So we're having discussions with all of them, and obviously the only ones that are going out are those that we expected. Two of them have been out on loan, and one of them's injured all the time. So can't really complain about it too much, to be honest.
Let's delve into it. We'll come back to the sentiment and what Nigel Clough said in a little while. Let's go through those under contract for 2025 then. Hiram Boateng, Jordan Bowery, Bailey Cargill, Scott Flinders. Of course, Bowery and Flinders both signed extensions last week. Aidan Flint, Elliot Hewitt, Davies Keeler-Dunn, Alfie Kilgore, Aaron Lewis, Callum McDonald, Tom Nichols, Christy Pym, Lewis Reed, Will Swan, and the under-21 goalkeeper Anthony Nunes. The Stags then activated clauses in the contracts of George Williams, Mikhail Abdullah, Charlie Carter, Finn Flanagan, Jakub Krasinski, and Darian Warchop, the under-21 players as well. Therefore, contract discussions underway with Lucas Akins, Ollie Clark, James Gale, George Maris, Stephen McLaughlin, Rhys Oates, Stephen Quinn, and then the under-21s, Taylor Anderson, George Cooper, and Owen Mason. Of course, contract discussions underway at this point means that they're not yet contracted for next season and could move on a free transfer elsewhere to other clubs. We'll delve into those under discussion later on. Then, of course, briefly on the released, Anthony Hartigan, who spent the entire season on loan at Barnet. I believe he got in the National League Team of the Season as well. John Joe O'Toole, who spent the latter half of the campaign out with AFC Wimbledon. Louis Turner, the under-21s goalkeeper. Lewis Brunt, of course, his loan's expired, so he's gone back to Leicester. And then Callum Johnson, who, of course, has spent a large majority of the season injured, sort of been in and out, came back a little bit towards the end. And that, for me, was the only real shock of them. Looking at what you can see on screen, Craig, then, about those who were released. Again, Hartigan, O'Toole don't really provide any shocks by virtue of the fact they've been out on loan. Louis Turner, he's always going to see an under-21 go, and then obviously Lewis Brunt going back to his parent club. The only real shock for me, and I use it in inverted commas, would be Callum Johnson, because I thought he might have been offered a deal. But like Nigel Clough said in his comments, if he'd have not been injured, it was sort of the injuries which hampered him, really, from getting a new deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Craig. I think, when you see all the lists, I think there's excitement to start with, some trepidation around the contract discussions. But as you say, the released Callum Johnson, was certainly a shock. Wasn't expecting him in there. Yes, he's been injured, but we know he on his day he can play really well, and you can see him fitting into the team. However, I think for me, try and keep positive. It allows us to bring other players in. And I think that can only be a bonus for us, to really strengthen the side as we go into League One.
This squad on paper, Cam, the ones that are already under contract, let's exclude the contract discussions underway section for a moment. But those who are contracted and who are staying definitely for 24-25, again, on paper, it's a very strong squad, and there's not many qualms about a lack of League One experience. In fact, looking blindly through that list, I'd probably say 95% of those players on there have at some point played League One football in some way, shape or form.
Well, you run it back. Hiram Boateng played in League One for MK Dons and Exeter. John Bowery, trying to think who we played League One football for. He's played it before. He's played Premier League football, for God's sake. Bailey Cargill, obviously, last season. Scott Flinders, we signed him from Cheltenham.
Yeah.
Who were in League One, got promoted, and he's played there previously. Aidan Flint, obvious that one. Elliot Hewitt, I'm not sure about Elliot Hewitt. Must have done at some point. Davis Keeler-Dunn, it'll be the first time, obviously he played League One last season season before for a brief spell. Didn't really cut it, but same again, it was also in a very poor Burton side. Alfie Kilgore was signed from a League One side. Aaron Lewis, don't know. Callum McDonald, don't know. Tom Nichols, Gillingham when they were in League One? Yeah. Christy Pym, obviously plenty of experience. Lewis Reed was at Barnsley. Sheffield United. Will Swan, no. And Anthony Nunes, no. So, like you say, we've got a good, near enough all that under contract have got League One experience and good League One experience. And even those with the contracts under discussions, you've still got a ridiculous amount of talent, but also experience mixed in there. So I'd like to see every single one of those sign a new deal. I'd be very disappointed if certain players definitely didn't.
Park that for a second. Park those, get a new deal.
No. But it's
where we were.
The League One experience is crucial to solidify our place in League One next season. Because you look, for example, this season for like other clubs, i.e. mainly Notts County, not strengthening and getting experienced League Two players in, it just shows what it can do. And if we don't keep a lot of those players, and if we don't make the right additions, we could very much find ourselves in a very precarious position where we've not got. We might have bags of talent, but unless you know how to play the game in that division, it's very different to League Two. And point proven, those that have gone up, quite a few of them have come back down. Near us straight away. Look at Forest Green, Carlisle. Both came straight back down again.
Yeah, that's the big talking point for me as well. It's about strengthening. And Craig, we heard Nigel Clough talk about wanting to keep the group together, the fact that they'd earned it, and he gave a stark reminder that the success that we've had this season just gone was not one which was built that season. It was one which was built over time. And for that to be able to continue, and for, like Cam says, for us to solidify a place in League One, what we need to do is have that continuity in place. And I think what he's done by keeping the majority of that squad together is doing that. And if he can add those additional players, that will even tick boxes. We didn't even talk about George Williams there, but again, like we were saying, Craig, I think it's one of those things, isn't it, where Nigel Clough he's gambled a little bit because I think he's using his experience, isn't he? Because so many clubs, when they get promoted, ship a load of players out and build again for a division higher. Clough's stuck.
Absolutely, Craig. And I think, we've talked about it all season, the togetherness of this squad and how they gel, how they get on, how they appear to just, be friends on and off the field. And I think, it's shown all the way through the season. We know a couple of seasons ago, whether it was a January transfer window or even summer, we brought players in and it just hasn't worked. And I think when you look at that list, I look at that list and I'm excited. I'm excited that the key players, okay, there's a couple that aren't on there that I'm sure we'll talk about later, but the key players are there. We've already, Cam's already said, look at the experience and gone through, the teams they've already played with. But we should still have that togetherness, and let's be honest, this is, what Nigel's done is he's seen this as a marathon, not a sprint. He's not just brought players in for League Two, he's brought them in for League One. And I've got no doubt that when he brings players in for next season, he'll have one eye on the Championship. And I know that's, people might say, are we looking too far ahead? I don't think we are. I think we're continuing, that building of the squad, and he's shown that's what he's done, certainly over the last 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely spot on with that as well. And I think a big part of what he's going to do is try and sort of keep that mentality together. And I think that's a bigger thing than anything, Cam, isn't it? The fact that we've woven this together since the days he's walked in the room. The squad know each other. They know how to play. They know the way you play. And even those players who you might see as, maybe not strong enough for League One or whatever, they pull themselves together and they bring the best out of each other. So actually having that continuity in place, having that familiarity in place only bodes well. And let's not forget, Nigel Clough has been in this position before where he knows how to keep clubs in League One and he knows how to try and push them beyond their means as well. And I think the way he does that is not by chopping and changing. He's a very familiar man. I liken it to if he's had a cream carpet in his living room for his entire life and he moves into a new house and got a blue carpet, that blue carpet's getting ripped up, Cam, and the cream one's going down.
Yeah, you look at the players that he's had, even the players that we've got now, Lucas Akins and Stephen Quinn, and you look at the players that Burton have still got in John Braidford, for example, that they're just there forever. And the funny thing was, obviously, when Akins left, Burton fans were like, oh, can we have a statue outside of Lucas Akins? They played like ridiculous number of games, and it's what you get used to. I think you get used to playing a certain type of football, and these players can play a Nigel Clough style of football. Even the players that were here before he was. You look at the players that were here before, none of the players that are under contract, the ones that are on the way, Ollie Clark, George Maris, Stephen McLaughlin, those crucial players that we've had, and very pivotal in the way that we've played. They were all here before Nigel, and they've very much bought into what he wants to do. And obviously, sort of like Ollie Clark and George Maris, specifically, massive players for massive games. And I can't see them playing absolutely every game next season. But you know that when a big game comes round, like you look at the teams that we're playing next season, you've got Barnsley, you've got Rotherham, both local. Huddersfield, a bit further up the road, another big team. You look at Birmingham, massive team to be in League One. And we just need players that are, first and foremost, going to put in a performance when we need them, but also aren't going to shy away from big games. And I don't think we've particularly got anybody that shies away, where we have been guilty previously when it comes to big games. But you can just see the players have all bought into what Nigel's wanted to do. So Nigel saying he wants to keep the core of that squad together, I think he's too right to, because they've given his trust and bought into what he wants to do and play in a certain way, and we're getting the results that we want. Well within his rights to give them the chance and to give them the respect that they deserve. It's always harsh to see an absolute boatload of players go out when a team gets promoted. But same again, you look at the other way, you look at someone like Forest Green and Carlisle, where they've just not really bought in, and then they've just gone straight back down the other way. You've got to have that balance.
Yeah, the key definitely is going to be strengthening. We can come on to that a little bit later. First, I want to delve into a few comments which are coming in tonight. Keep them coming in. Have your say on your team. Last chance to do so until June, July time. We're going to take a little bit of a break, although there will be one more minimum special episode coming your way next week. More on that in the coming days. Richard says, couldn't see how Callum Johnson could get a new contract with the hamstring problems he's had. 3 hamstring injuries that were all long-term. Was an injury in waiting all the time. And just to add on the back of that, Craig, as well, when you look at the options on paper, what we've got next year for right back, even if Clough doesn't bring an out-and-out right back in, you've got Elliot Hewitt chomping on the bit to come back in. George Williams, who we didn't talk about earlier on, who can play right back and has played at League One level. Jordan Bowery as well. You've got so many options there. I don't think, Callum Johnson, as much as he's, been a part of our promotion-winning squad, will add too much into that mix.
No, I totally agree, Craig. And I think, there's always going to be some people that lose out in terms of, staying on with the club. But I think, I'm excited for the defence next season. Just thinking about, Kilgore and Flint, in the centre. Got Cargill, left back. Hopefully Hewitt back to full strength right back. Other people that can come in, others that can play different positions. Bowery. I think we're looking really strong at the back, providing everyone is fit, everyone's match fit and ready for the start of the season. I think we're looking pretty strong at the back. I'm not saying don't bring anyone else in. There's always room for strengthening. Bring one maybe 2 defenders in, or an attacking sort of defender midfielder, aka Brunt. If we can keep him, he will just add so much value to the team, because we know he can play at the back, we know he can play midfield. So if we can retain Brunt, now we've gone into League One, that'll be a massive game for us for next season.
Well, you're more than welcome to come back on Mansfield Matters now that you've made a slip up and proved that you're human just like the rest. Welcome to the party. You mentioned Lewis Brunt there. Cam, let's touch upon him. Of course, he's been recalled by Leicester. His loan's expired. But with Leicester getting promoted, that again keeps the same divisional gap. Let's face it, Lewis Brunt's not a bad player, but he's not Premier League standard. They'll want to develop him, but they'll want to develop him at League One level. Mansfield's chances of getting him again, I would say, are high. Nigel Clough knows him. Leicester have been delighted with this season as well. And Nigel Clough has openly admitted that we're in for him either on a loan or a permanent transfer as well. I actually can see Brunt re-signing. I can't see any reason why he wouldn't, unless there's a better option in League One for him. But I don't see it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because you do look at it and there's not a massive amount of clubs that are going to be sort of like punching way above their weight. Obviously, you look at sort of like the teams that have sort of like dropped through the trapdoor, you kind of expect it. And League One's about what you'd expect next season. You've got a couple that are going to be sort of like really good, going to throw some money at it. You've got those that are going to be solidifying, and that those that are going to be struggling. And
trying to catch me out there, you dickhead.
And I'd like to think we're sort of like somewhere in the middle of where they are, only by the virtue because the two of them that have come down are going to be miles ahead financially. But I just can't see, unless one of those top teams come in for him, I just can't see him going anywhere else other than coming back to us. There'd be from Leicester's standpoint, there's no point in sending him back down to League Two, because I don't really see where he's going to develop. It's quite clear that he's very settled in how we play and how Nigel uses him and utilises him. And Nigel's always been very complimentary of him. He's called him out when he needs to, where just like the performances haven't been there or there's been mistakes. But Nigel's the sort of a manager to call anyone out. He's called Lucas Akins out. He's called Stephen Quinn out, who have obviously worked with him for a lot longer than Lewis Brunt has. And I just would like to see him come back. And I'm just reading Mark's comment in the comments saying Brunt to Rotherham. Honestly, I genuinely will go and steal him out of my back garden if he was to join the Fat Man.
All right, Brunty, where are you playing?
No, moving on.
on the left.
But you look at the seasons we've come near, but so far in the past, you look at sort of like your Tyler Walkers, for example. We've not been able to keep hold of them because we've not gone up. Whereas now we've gone up, and fingers crossed, touch wood, cross kick, literally every sort of like superstition thing you can do, we've got a better chance of keeping hold of him. Because, like you said, Leicester aren't going to play him in the Premier League. Realistically, the only time he'll play is just like if they got a weaker team in round 3 of the FA Cup, and they got sort of like a weak team in the Carabao Cup. Like, there's just no point in keeping hold of the player for maybe 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, he'd go back to playing Prem 2, wouldn't he? Which is just a backward step, which is not the right.
It's more competitive in our poor excuse of a reserves league. So, and it's not far up the road. So, I'd like to keep him, and if we can get him on a permanent, definitely get him on a permanent.
Yeah, I've got no doubt that we'll certainly chase after him. It'll be interesting to see how that progresses over the course of the season. Keep your comments coming in. We'll come back to a few of them later on. I've got a couple sort of saying who they would get rid of out of those who were under contract negotiations. And that, Craig, is a perfect reason to go back to this list then and have a little look. Obviously, contract discussions underway, which means they've not yet signed and could be free to move on elsewhere. Lucas Akins, Ollie Clark, James Gale, George Maris, Stephen McLaughlin, Rhys Oates, Stephen Quinn of the senior players, Taylor Anderson, George Cooper, and Owen Mason of the under-21s, also under negotiation. I would imagine that the 3 under-21s would sign relatively quickly and possibly do the reverse of what we did this season and get George Cooper out on loan and sit Owen Mason within the squad as the homegrown, although some of the others might now class as homegrown as well. We'd have to look more into that. Let's delve into the more senior players, though, Craig. And the first one that jumps to mind is not Stephen Quinn, surprisingly, is that of Rhys Oates. And I think this one is more of the measure of what Nigel Clough is, because we look at the difference. Callum Johnson obviously released and has had injury problems throughout the season. But as it stands now, he was playing towards the back end of the season. He was available for the last couple of games of the season. So he's in a position now where he's fit enough to go and play football and to go and find himself another club. Rhys Oates is not. And therefore, because of the nature of his injury, Nigel Clough wants to protect him. He wants to offer him a deal. Whether or not he'll actually play next season in 24-25 or not, if he signed a new deal, is irrelevant. I think the fact that we're looking after him and protecting him and giving him the option to get fit and to maybe go out on loan and still to earn a wage when he's got a family to support, I think that's a real measure of Nigel Clough as a manager and of the Radfords as well, to be able to facilitate that sort of move.
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. I think it's absolutely clear, as you say, that Mansfield Town want to look after Rhys Oates, protect him, and hopefully see him back playing for Mansfield again, where he has done before. I think there has been a bit of a danger with Rhys Oates where he's been injured, he's come back, but injured again, and that last injury, I think it was his knee, wasn't it, where he didn't need to lunge for that ball, and really disappointing that we lost him for the season. However, we got across the line, didn't we? I think in terms of Rhys Oates and next season, will we see him back? Will he contribute? Will he be a bit part player eventually? Who knows? Will he go out on loan? I'm really not sure. I think in terms of fitting to the team, it will all depend on what happens with other people, because we need someone big up front, don't we, to muscle some of the players out of the way. What's going to happen with Akins? Is Akins going to stay? Are we going to offer him something else? Is he going to go? I've seen in the chat someone's mentioned something around Akins, going off somewhere else. And I think we're going to need someone. If we lose Akins, we're going to need someone else up there that's got a bit of muscle, that can knock those defenders about a little bit. Now, there's lots to go out. Other players in League One, maybe some Championship players on loan, but we will need somebody up front, no doubt, who can just muscle those players out of the way. We know Tom Nichols is good. We know Will Swan's good, but they just sometimes get pushed off the ball a little bit too easy. They've got great skill and they've got great contribution, but we just need that player, don't we? That player with a bit of muscle who can, just give us that bit extra.
It's an interesting one, Cam, the Aikens situation, because a lot of people say, he's of his age, you'd look to move him on and get somebody else in, and that there's no room for sentiment. And it does feel a little bit, same with Quinn to a degree, that Nigel Clough wants to just keep around the players that he's familiar with. But let's also not forget, like you mentioned earlier, Lucas Aikens has played League One for a lot of his career. He knows the division and he is very fit for his age. He's a very capable player. He doesn't break down injured a lot. He tends to play the full 90 a lot of the time. We don't need to manage him like we manage other players like Stephen Quinn, and who can only give us 60 minutes or so. And that asset, the experience of playing League One, the fitness element, and the fact that he knows the style of play which we play and is not afraid to do those things, make him a very valuable asset for us going into League One. In, let's be honest, what's going to be a season which is going to be completely different to this one, unless we have a miracle start and get a bit of momentum behind us. It's going to be a challenge this season, and we need players who are going to be willing, Cam, to dig the heels in and drag the mud up.
Yeah, I think this just shows the sort of player that Lucas is, by the virtue that he'll just play anywhere. And we've needed that sort of player, and especially sort of like going into a new league where, let's be totally honest, how many of these players were even playing? I don't even think any of the players that we've got right now, maybe other than Scott Flinders, were even in professional football, if not even old enough to play open age football the last time we were in League One. It's a totally different kettle of fish. And we do need the sort of versatility that someone like Lucas Aikens is offering. And to be honest, if you'd have thought, are we going to keep... If it was a straight toss-up, who do you keep to play that versatile role, Lucas Aikens or Jordan Bowery? I'd choose Lucas Aikens every day. So to think Jordan Bowery's already signed up for another year shows that, all right, well, maybe we are going to try and play sort of like the same sort of style and sort of like keep the core of the squad. And hopefully Lucas is very much wanting to be part of that. And it's quite clear that he does know sort of like the best way to be played by Nigel and sort of like where he needs to be. And like you said, he's very fit for his age, bombing up and down the wing against Accrington. Like, for a game, it's a natural position for him in that he's played there before. But realistically, he's supposed to be like an out-and-out striker. And he's playing right back where it's just like, it's such a massive game. And Nigel's able to call on him. And even just for that, it might be a case of he can get himself a contract just for that sort of situation where we just definitely need someone.
Yeah, 100% agree. Nigel Clough wants versatility. He wants players who can slot in anywhere and players who he can trust to do those jobs as well. Let's just not play him right wing back, because there's a huge difference between playing right wing back and actual out and out right back. More on that, though, next season, I'm sure, when we maybe look at changing formation or whatever. Let's talk Stephen Quinn, though, Craig, because we've gone from one to the other with Stephen Quinn. We know Lucas Aikens is this player who's versatile, he's fit, he can get through 90 minutes, and he knows the division. Stephen Quinn knows the division as well. He's a similar age, but he can't play 90 minutes. But what he does bring is that youthful enthusiasm. When I was on 5 Live, I referred to him as like a 12-year-old on acid, and I still haven't received an invitation to go back, but I'm still sticking by my analogy. But the point is, though, Stephen Quinn was close to finishing, well, when he finished at Burton, he was going to hang up his... Not when he finished at Sheffield United, he was going to hang up his boots, then got the call to go to Burton. He was going to do the same again, comes to Mansfield, and, for the last 2 or 3 seasons, it's been Willie, won't he? Obviously, we've had all the songs about one more year with him, which has inflated the ego a little bit and given him that belief, which I think everybody craves a little bit of, which is great. But he's now got a major decision to make, and it's, if he's available in that squad, does that help or hinder Mansfield going forward? Because if Stephen Quinn says, enough's enough, I'm going to go out on a high, I've scored, got the goal, which has essentially got us promoted, I've enjoyed this group of lads, I've loved my time, I've loved Mansfield, and now I'm just going to step away and be a fan and do my own thing. That then allows us to bring in another midfielder who we can mould in the Stephen Quinn moulding, but who's that 5, 6, 7 years younger, who's going to give us a little bit more life going forward. And that's the difficult thing, which I think both him and Nigel Clough, to be fair, have got to weigh up.
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. I mean, where do we start with Stephen Quinn? Wow, what a season, what a player. I think, he has gone out on a high. He scored that goal and great for him. I think, for Stephen Quinn, he gives Mansfield as much on the pitch as he does off the pitch, in terms of that camaraderie, that keeping the squad together, but also for the younger players to learn from him as well. And for me, I don't want to see him go anywhere. I think it's going to be difficult in terms of the contract. Will they negotiate a contract that may not be as much as this season, that's a little bit lower, that allows us to still bring other players in, but allows Stephen to stay and contribute. We know we're not going to get 90 minutes. We might get every other game out of him, but I think he can still do a job for Mansfield. And I think the majority, if not everyone, would want to see him stay another season to help us really get into the thick of League One. To help us stay there and just to lift the team, bring the players on. And to contribute really as much as he has done this season. And again, I'll say to him, Craig, he gives as much on the field as he does off the field. And I don't think we can afford to lose that.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, as well. It is, when we are going to be up against it, what we don't want to do now is as a club, we don't want to come hurtling straight back down, because that will set us back another 5-6 years. And I don't think we will. I genuinely will say now, and I'll say it all through next season as well. I don't think we will come straight back down, because we are in a stronger position, a much, much, much stronger position as a club all round than what we were when we got promoted last time around in those 21 odd years ago. And like we've heard on this podcast before, Stuart Watkins, the manager back then, said, I knew the day we got promoted that we would come straight back down the next season, because the investment wasn't there. It certainly seems like it is this year. Let's go back to a few more of those players in discussions. Let's go through them. Ollie Clark, I'd love to see stay, Cam, because he's got that League One experience as a leader. He loves Mansfield. He's made roots up here now, and he's completely invested in the manager. James Gale, I think, is a good impact player for us as well. I think we can bring him off the bench and really give him a time to develop, and he just offers us something going forward. He's that little bit of burliness. He's almost like a younger Lucas Akins in some way, shape or form, because of his physicality and the way he presses. He's like a mould between a fully fit Rhys Oates and Lucas Akins in that way. And then George Maris, I think they're definites for me, Cam, in terms of signing on the line, because Maris, deserves to be in League One after so many years of trying, and he's good enough to play there.
Myself, there we go. Yeah, he is. I think all of those are going to be good enough to play in League One. If maybe not starting every single game and playing 90 minutes every game, but you look at the impact that James Gale's had off the bench in games this season. You look at MK Dons, for example, assisting one goal, scoring the other. Like you said, though, his physicality and his size, he makes him an effective player going forward, but also defensively. He's just another body to throw on if you need to. And no doubt there will be better players out there than him. But the big bonus that he's got is that he's still young. He's got near enough his entire football career ahead of him. What is he, 21, 22?
Yeah.
That's a long time in football. So as long as we get things right with him, which, to be fair, so far we have done. Last season, we said at this point last season, next season is James Gale's make or break season. Mm. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever... There's been games where I've been disappointed, but to be honest, there's been games where we've just played crap and we've been looking for a scapegoat as such.
Yeah, and he naturally becomes it because of his age and the lack of experience in the Football League.
Yeah, well, there's been a couple of games where it's just like, not dived, but gone down a bit easy to try and win a cheap penalty when I think we've ended up going to win games anyway in that situation. But it's always just a little bit frustrating. And yeah, it's his experience and his age, but you're not going to get any experience if you're just not playing. And I think it's a no-brainer to keep hold of him. Whether he wants to stay or not, I don't know. But he's not. He's a localish lad. Obviously, he's from sort of like Nottingham sort of way. He's got the opportunity to be playing League One football at the age of 21, 22. That's an opportunity. As long as the money and the terms are good for him, he's definitely somebody I'd keep hold of. And it's not the situation of giving whatever he wants and whatever, but it's very much a case of we've got to do everything we can to try and keep hold of him, because even if he doesn't play every game next season, he's definitely one for the future. And unfortunately, with this club, we've seen too many players slip through the cracks because we've not bled them through right. And James Gale could be the very first to actually sort of like be a very, very, very good academy product.
Yeah, and just to jump on the back of that, Craig, obviously he's not necessarily come out of our academy per se because of where we got him from, but we're developing him in-house. And I think what we talk about being a good asset for the future is not necessarily someone who's going to come in and play week in, week out and be, going to be top scorer and become a club legend. Yeah. But someone that's going to pocket us a few quid, Craig. We've got to at some point see a return from the academy. We are so close to doing it. We're now seeing more under 21 players of quality signing on the dotted line and being given opportunities in and around the first team. We're getting them out on loan to good clubs. We're establishing ourselves. And if we can, have another season developing James Gale, whether that be 6 months coming off the bench and scoring the odd goal and getting the odd assist like he did at MK Dons and various other games, and then sending him out for 6 months to develop in League Two, because let's face it, he's good enough to play in League Two, as he's proven, and then we can sell him on to a team, just picking a name off the top of my head, like Barrow or someone like that, someone who's going to be a mid-table pushing playoff League Two side for a few quid with a sell-on clause. I think that's job done all round, isn't it?
I think you're right, Craig. I think we've got a real difficult decision, or rather Nigel has, in terms of, so what do we do with someone like Gale? Because, part of me thinks, what we could really go out there and try and bring in, a striker, an out-and-out striker, whether that's from League One, someone on loan from the Championship, and let Gale go out on loan. Versus, do we just keep Gale? We know what he can do. We know he can come off the bench, as you say. But I think it's a really tricky one for Nigel in terms of what we've got. What do we do? Do we let him go out, or do we take a gamble? I think if we had a crystal ball and we know the people who were eligible out there in terms of strikers who we might be able to bring in. I think until we know that, I don't think we can make a decision on Gale. I think we've got to see what's out there, see what opportunities, see what we can afford, see what money the Radfords are going to put down, which we know they will do. They've been great all the way through. But I think if there is someone and we decide we're going to bring someone in, that will then give Nigel the decision around what he does, and likely on loan. If he does bring someone in.
And of course, the one we've not really mentioned in terms of those negotiating contracts and things like that is Stephen McLaughlin. Now, he's been very open in the way in which he's spoken about his life and football. He really wasn't enjoying his football at his previous club, and then gets signed by Mansfield to play under Graham Coughlin, and that's even worse. And then Nigel Clough comes in and turns him into a completely different player, but makes him believe again. And you can see, very much like Stephen Quinn, how much he takes the spirit of the fans and absolutely loves it and breathes it. But at the same time, Cam, Nigel Clough has made it's not hidden the fact that he's in the market for a left back. And, at times this season, when Stephen McLaughlin's been fit, it's only by virtue of the fact that other players perhaps haven't been fit enough to get through games towards the last 5-6 games of the season that he's played. McLaughlin's not been the first choice left back. It's always been Bailey Cargill or Jordan Bowery or Callum McDonald, who again is with us next season. So that's a big question over what Stephen McLaughlin wants to do. Does he want to find another club? Does he want to give it another go, or does he want to maybe call time in it? And if he does sit in there, is it a case of just becoming a squad player?
I think the difficult thing is we've got to do what's right for the squad, what's right for the club. And I think sentiment is a very difficult one to judge. Like Stephen said, he wants to be here next season and be part of it. And like he said, he wasn't enjoying football until he came back to Mansfield, and very nearly didn't come back. Went across to Ireland to live with family during the old COVID pandemic, and then very nearly didn't come back. So not only was that a big call and a big gamble on him to firstly come to Mansfield in the first place, but then to build what he has and to become the player that he has. Obviously, this season's been very difficult because of the injuries and then sort of like just players doing really well. Bailey Cargo did fantastic at left back, but he's I definitely see a place for him in the squad. To be honest, I'm a little bit annoyed that Cal McDonald is under contract. I don't know whether I'm hammering myself to the cross here, but from the games that we've seen him, I know McDonald's a fair bit older than him, but I put McDonald. I know McLaughlin's a fair bit older than him. I'd still rather see McLaughlin. I think McDonald's a bit of a liability.
It's an interesting...
I know that's sort of like very harsh on Callum, because same again, he's been injured for a lot of the season, and I think probably the only reason he's still here is that he's under contract. He spent nearly as long out as Macca. So it's just, I don't know. I think we definitely play better football when, because I feel like McDonald did very well, for example, in the Notts County game, but then we are a much better team when we're able to attack down the sides and get the balls in behind, whereas McDonald definitely cannot do that for whatever reason. Every game that he's played in, he does not play that style of football, whatever reason. And like Mitch said in the comments, it's a wild take, but I think I am a little bit guilty of sentiment, but it's a difficult one to judge. Really is.
I mean, I'm being told to mute this man, but I'm not going to do, Mitchell, because I agree with Cam, and I hate myself for saying that. Hate it. Right, we are running rapidly out of time, but let's very briefly, Craig, talk about those who leave us, because as much as we like to see players continue the journey with us, naturally there has to be departures. We mentioned Callum McDonald, Callum Johnson, needs to get those two mixed up earlier on, and we wish him all the best for the future. I've got no qualms that he'll be picked up by a club. The one I'm slightly disappointed at is Anthony Hartigan, because he's had such a superb season with Barnet, getting into the National League team of the season. But if his contract was up, it's a natural to let him go. I think had he been under contract, I think we might have tried to keep him, maybe sent him out on loan or for another 6 months and then made a little bit of money on him, because he's a terrific talent. He's just been unfortunate by the way of his injuries that have fallen at the wrong times, that he's not had a Mansfield career as Anthony Hartigan. He'll go on to do really, really well. He'll be one of those, a little bit like Alistair Smith, who, post Mansfield will go on to have a really good career, and we'll sit back and think, why the bloody hell didn't he do that for us?
Yeah, I think you're right, Craig. I think, Hartigan came, we didn't really give him, a fair chance. He didn't really do what we thought he would do. We sent him out on loan, and I think now we're moving up into League One. I think the dilemma is that some people might say, "Oh, bring Hartigan back." We know he can do good things. We know he's been great while he's been out on loan, but can he do it in League One, or is there other people to bring in instead? And it's a difficult one, but heart of hearts, I think it's the right decision. I think, let Hartigan, go and find a career somewhere else. Yeah, it might come back and bite us, but actually, we need to start looking at what's out there in League One and maybe bring, a couple of players, similar players in to Hartigan, but there's probably better out there.
Same with the legend that is John Joe O'Toole. Did a great job for us. We know we were desperate at the time, and we probably had to plan for that in terms of giving him the longer contract and the expensive contract. Did a superb job for us when we needed him to. Didn't get the breaks last season because of the way we changed formation. And then this season's been a little bit unlucky with injuries, and therefore basically we fell out the squad. And, you can't blame him for wanting to go and get football. So we wish him all the best as well. I always like working with John Joe and chatting to him. He's a really good guy. And I think in the end, Cam, he came here a little bit of a hated figure, didn't he, because of his Northampton long hair days. And I think he's left with the best wishes of every Mansfield Town fan.
Northampton long-haired days. Wasn't that just you?
No? What are you on about?
Oh, no. Was this Bristol Rovers that he... No, was it Bristol Rovers or Northampton where he nutted Richie Sutton?
Yeah, they had John Joe O'Toole Day, and all their fans came dressed as John Joe O'Toole. And...
Yeah, you're the only one that hates him for that. Let's be totally real.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
He literally said in an interview, after that game, Mansfield fans were squaring up to me in the car park.
Yeah, to be fair, he's another one of them players that you hate. You love to hate until he's on your team.
Yeah,
and you adore him. Bit like the fat man round the corner to me. And yeah, obviously it is always sad when players leave, especially those that actually just like, whether we got over the line or not, he was still part of the squad that got us to Wembley and created one of the best seasons in recent memory. Obviously, it was disappointing, and he couldn't play a part in this season through injuries, and then just not getting his chance in the squad. But same again, you can't unsettle a squad like what we've got. Would you take Aidan Flint out of the squad for him?
No, of course you wouldn't.
So it's a difficult one, and obviously it's the right decision for both parties. No doubt with Callum Johnson, Anthony Artigan and John Joe O'Toole, we'll definitely find something in League Two, maybe top end National League. And same for Louis Turner, young goalkeeper, also been released. I think being a goalkeeper at Mansfield's a very difficult one because you've got a fantastic number one in Christy Pimp, a fantastic number two in Scott Flinders, and then you've got Owen Mason, who's a very good youngster, and then also
Anthony Nunes,
who's very, very highly rated at international level, and I'm not sure if he played in the Olympic qualifiers for like Paraguay or whatever. So we've got some real competition for goalkeepers going forward. So it's always a difficult one. With goalkeepers, you've only got 2 or 3 spots to play for.
Yeah,
it's always the worst one, but we wish them all the best, and obviously we want to see them do well in their later careers, but obviously it's always going to be frustrating if one of them does do really bloody well like Alistair Smith did after he left.
Yeah, that's always the hard part, isn't it? Seeing them go on to do well and us knowing that we can't get any money for them or any financial gain afterwards. But it is what it is, and football is a funny old game, and that is almost all we've got time for, talking about the retain list and everything. We will talk very, very briefly about what we want to see in the closed season. But for one final time, there's something which we didn't do on Sunday, mainly because we forgot, because we was outside and we didn't have the whiteboard in front of me. So for one last time, Craig's going to like this. So will they win, lose or draw? And what will be the score? It's the guessing game that brings you 0 fame, but to be the best you must outguess the rest. So will they win, lose or draw? And what will be the score? In the League or Cup, you just make it up, because they're just works of fictions. It's podcast predictions. Will they win, lose or draw? Now, Craig, you've got a very important job now because you're going to play the part of judge, jury and executioner on here. Your say will be the one which matters in the end. At the start of the campaign, we always do, Cam I think knows what's coming here, we always do our sort of like season predictions. So we write down where we think we'll finish, we'll write down how many points we think we'll get, we write down who will be top scorer and how many goals they'll score, and who will be voted player of the season. Alan's the only one that didn't put a player of the season down because I think he missed that podcast, and we'd already started playing by the time that he got to giving his guesses. But we're going to go through all our predictions. I've got them on the board. Craig, it's your job to determine out of the options who you think was the most accurate of the 5 the 6 that took part. The only one who didn't take part was Jim because he wasn't part of the podcast team at that point. I went for a bold prediction and said that we'd win the league with 92 points. I said that Rhys Oates would be top scorer with 18 goals, that the player of the season would be Lewis Reed. Alan was a little bit more reserved and said we'd finish second on 84 points, but again said Rhys Oates would finish top scorer on 18 goals. Reminder, he didn't give player of the season. Nick of Mansfield Town Shirts fame Well, I think he's lost already because he said we'd finish in 6th position on 71 points. He went for Will Swan as top scorer with 14 goals and went for Alfie Kilgore as player of the season. Nathan, yes, whom we all remember Nathan, he said we would finish 4th on 79 points. He said Lucas Akins would finish top scorer on 16, but he went for Aidan Flint as the player of the season. Clive then went for 3rd place finish on 81 points. Will Swan on 16 as top scorer and Kilgore as player of the season. And then Cam also went for 3rd place on 83 points.
Ooh.
Will Swan on 16 goals and Lewis Reed as the player of the season. As we know, we finished in 3rd with 86 points. Davis Keeler-Dunn finished as top scorer. And player of the season, well, Aidan Flint swept the board. I think closest, is Alan in terms of we finished 2nd, so he got that wrong. He was the closest in terms of points and in terms of the number of goals the top scorer would finish on. But he didn't give a player of the season vote. So my question to you, Craig, bearing in mind the history of this podcast, who wins between Alan and the slightly smug-looking person on camera who thinks he's about to win something after 7 series? It's all down to you, champion.
Right, so that's a real tough one because I sort of think Cam, was really close because if you think about Lewis Reed, yeah, he wasn't playing the season, but he got in the team of the season, didn't he? So although not it's a tough one, Craig. I'm going to have to give it Cam.
Yes! Come on!
I'm sorry, Craig. I'm sorry, and that's probably my day's done now. I guess.
Come on! I won something.
Third place, Craig, and yeah.
Annoyingly, I can't disagree because he was technically it was 1 point out. We got 84. Well, it was what? It was 3 points out. We got 86. So Alan was the closest, but we did finish 3rd, and he was. And Lewis Reed did get in the team of the season. I'm going to say it's joint between Cam and Alan, but I did say that.
I'll take a joint.
If you'd given me the option of joint, I'd have gone for joint. But it was Lewis Reed and the team of the season that I just thought, you know what, it scores a couple more points for that. But I'd go for joint. Let's go for joint, Craig.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
However, I have one question to ask Cam, and I need you to answer this honestly.
Oh, go on then.
Have your over-exuberant celebrations woken Evelyn?
No, she's not in bed yet.
Okay, because if they had, I would have deducted a point. But...
No. Hey, I win bugger all on these podcasts when it comes to that stuff. I do well on quizzes, and that is it. I never win any awards for podcaster of the year.
No, that was me. I won that.
Yeah, shock. And then
there was only one vote in it. Alan came second.
See, yeah. But
and
anyway,
myself, I voted for Alan, so you know.
And I never do well at podcast predictions, so I will take that. Now, the interesting one is who are we releasing? Who's retained? Who's released?
Oh, in terms of the podcasters,
I think Nathan's got to go. Sorry, Nathan.
Oh, no. You know what? You're all retained for next week. I'm going to channel my inner Nigel Clough. We're keeping the band together. Nathan's supposedly moving back to the area, so he'll be available more often. I'm keeping the band together, and you know what? I might even add some more people to the roster in terms of
I'm after winning.
emergency substitutes. However, it is with disappointment that after 7 years, Cam is now gone. Everyone would have expected that joke, Craig, as will Cam. No, you can all stay around. Final comments, because this is the last show we're going to do for a while. What are you expecting to see over the summer? Cam, I'll start with you. We've said for seven series, the one thing we hate during summer is, me especially, I hate the rumour mill. I like to see it done and dusted. I like to see it signed, sealed and delivered. Mansfield are levelling up to League One. What needs to happen? What are you hoping will happen in the next month or so as football stops and the dreams start again about Mansfield Town in Sky Bet League One?
I want to say Bishop Street. No, that's a longer project, but it's something that we've been waiting for so long, and the key part of that was promotion, and we've done it. So now the vital thing and the most important thing for me over the next 2-3 months, rebuild. We are back in League One. We don't want to lose that place again. We don't want to be back in League Two so soon. So we've got a good core, we've got good players, we've got a good manager, and we've got good owners. And even more important, we've got good fans that have backed us throughout this season. And we as fans deserve this promotion. The players and teams gone by have let us down in the past, and managers and previous owners have let us down and promised us things and then not delivered. But the fans have still backed throughout, and now is our time, and it's now our opportunity to celebrate. And we've had that moment against Accrington, we had moments against Gillingham, and then we had moments against Barrow, and then the end of season awards, the open top bus parade, and everything that's come with it in the last 3 weeks since that Accrington game. And to finally sit here, and I'm currently just watching the League One playoff semi-final, isn't it nice to just be sat doing bugger all and let everybody else fighting it out? And we can just sit back and just be like, this is nice.
It is. But also you, as a lazy student former, should be used to that as well. Anyway, Cam, as always, genuinely, we may bicker on this series, but we've been doing this for 7 years. And it is genuinely amazing to see that we're finally in League One. I can't wait to do it all again next season. Thanks so much for your contribution this season. Apart from those Wednesdays where you decide to be a turncoat, and for which, goodbye. Craig, final words from you. Cam will come back in a minute. I know he will.
Thanks, Craig. Yeah, I think for me, one, I hope we all have a great summer. That's the fans and the club. We've deserved it. It's just been a tough but rewarding season. I'd like to see the injured players get back to full fitness over the summer, so they're ready to go. Most of them for next season. I'd like to see Clough bring some players in that have got the talent but are a good fit for the team. We don't want to see the team disrupted. So yeah, I just hope the players that they do bring in, are a good fit, are the right players, and don't disrupt that team. And finally, I'd like to see the gate being shut again every home game at the top end of the stadium.
Absolutely. Well, it'd be what happens next season. Also, I've got 2 very brief questions for you, Craig, before we let you go. Obviously, you were the previously, as per an hour ago, the unknown fathead. Are you also the unknown profile behind the gate?
I can't answer that one, Craig.
All right, okay. So the gate is potentially sitting on the fence. We'll wait and see. We'll investigate and reveal that next year. Also, we are in negotiation season. Whereabouts roughly, you don't have to say the number of the house or the street name, but whereabouts roughly in Mansfield are you? Just in case that, some contract negotiations do break down and we do need a new podcaster for next season.
Yeah, absolutely. So slightly north of Mansfield, so not far away. Not far away at all. So love to come back at some point, but I'll leave that down to you guys. And what I'd just like to say, Craig, and to all of you and the team, just keep doing what you're doing. You do a great job. You get us all through the season. It's great that people can come on here, can have their say, exactly how you start the podcast. But just keep doing what you're doing. It's great.
Thank you so much. And with that, you've just earned yourself an invite back for next season. That is almost all we've got time for, though. My thanks to Craig and to Cam. We'll see Craig again next season and find out whether or not he can retain his title as Podcast Predictions Champion. All that's left to say, though, is that is all we've got time for, and that is the final show of this series. Series 7 is done. We are off in League One, finally, after all those years. And to you at home, for watching, for listening, all I want to say is a huge, huge thank you. When we started this 7 years ago, we had no idea how this would progress. We wanted this for a place where Nathan, Cam and I could all chat. Numerous faces have come and gone over the years, and now we've got a roster of 7 podcasters who have all become friends, all united over the love of football. It brings us together every single week. Every single person who goes to One Call Stadium or the away games have all wanted to see one thing: a promotion. We've got it. Enjoy your summer, enjoy your time off, and most importantly, the one message I want to convey is football does bring us together. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we've often said on this podcast that this podcast acts as a bit of a support network for all of us. So if this is what keeps you connected to other people, do keep talking to us. We're on social media. We'll always be there. Have a chat with your friends and just dream and focus on next season, because it'll be here sooner than you think. And we will be following the journey every step of the way. You bet your bottom fucking dollar we will. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. We will see you in League One. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You make this show what it is, not us. And we will see you next season to do it all over again. For now, though, Series 7 is done, and Mansfield Town at last are promoted. Come on, you Stags!